YSK. The US passport card is an alternative backup to ID, lasts 10 years and is only $30. YSK. It's not legal to have multiple valid IDs of the same type, however you can have an ID and a passport and/or passport card. Not everyone has a need for or wants a full passport book because it's more expensive at $130 and more bulky and less durable. The passport card has essentially the same utility as an ID, not a driver's license. X200B. Echoing other commenters. In addition to only being valid while entering Canada and Mexico, it is only valid by land. If you are flying into a Canadian or Mexican airport from the USA, it will not work. You will need a passport. As someone who lives fewer than 3 miles from the US-Canada border, the passport card is only valid for Canada and Mexico crossing, and a few Caribbean ports. It's also valid to enter federal facilities and board domestic airlines. It will not work as a passport for other countries. I use my card multiple times every week, often multiple times per day. I still need the passport book to travel to Europe. Does it count as real ID? My state wants $75 for that shit. Checks site. Yes, it does. Fuck you, DMV. It was my understanding that the passport card can only be used at Canadian and maybe Mexican borders. Last time I traveled to Mexico, passports weren't needed, though that was over 20 years ago. These are great for starting a new job when you have to do an I-9. I really don't want to carry my passport or social security card if I don't have to, so I just use this. Very specific use case. I know. I really like using my card as ID because it's just an ID. It doesn't have my address on it. For example, a bar bouncer needs to know my age, and it does that. But I never have to worry about him being a creep and knowing where I live or anything else. It also doesn't signal that I'm from out of state when traveling, which is nice. YSK. That if your passport expires in 6 months, it's already expired. Meaning most countries won't let you visit if it's that close to expiring. It also works for I-9 verification when starting a new job. I used to work seasonally for a company that had to do an I-9 for basically twice yearly. The major reason I picked up a passport card was for that. You can have a passport and a PC valid at the same time. I picked mine up when I renewed my passport a few years back. Everyone should get a passport. Period. Cannot be used for international air travel. US passport cards only allow access to Canada, Mexico and some US territory islands. If you want to go abroad, you will still need a passport book. Yes, I have a card because I live overseas and don't really want to carry my passport everywhere. I also have a local ID. Passport card counts as a primary ID for things like validating employmentability. This may not be entirely true. If a passport qualifies as an ID, I had 2 fully legal and functioning US passports, a standard 5-year one, and a more unique 2-year one. I know you're talking about the card, but I've actually had arguments with friends about this. I didn't have my DL but did have my passport and said, I'll just use my passport. Friend said that's not an ID. Me. You're an idiot. It's a federal ID. Chill people. OP is only saying it is another form of ID. He isn't making comments on its usefulness as a form of travel. I got the passport card but mostly as a backup while traveling. They say if you are traveling with someone else like your spouse, then exchange passport cards. Or at least keep your passport and passport card in separate places. So for like a woman, if she has her passport and passport card in a purse and the purse gets lost, stolen. If your passport card is with someone else, then at least you will have a form of ID still. So basically the same thing as an enhanced license. It will also take a swift 11 weeks to get one if you are renewing it. So I completely understand the limits of the card. With that said, I chose to get it even though most of my travel is by plane and in the EU. Basically it's a government-issued ID, and if you were to lose your passport book while abroad, this ID would be a great help to prove your identity at the consulate. I also have used it to prove ID when I had a temp paper ID for licenses and when I needed 2 forms of picture ID. Refused service at a bar with a passport card when my DL was expired. In my state, you can have a driver's license and a state ID, both of which are fully valid and can be used for air travel. I keep my DL in my wallet and have my husband, he's the responsible one in this relationship, to carry my state ID in his wallet. This way, if we are out and about and I don't have my wallet, I'm covered. The Global Entry card also functions in this way, and it's Real ID compliant. True. But remember that a passport card is not valid for most international travel. It's valid for border crossings by land and sea only. If you want to fly anywhere, you will need a passport book. YSK, you can have 2 passport books of the same passport. It's not legal to have multiple valid IDs of the same type. Are you sure about that? Explain. I don't drive and need a new ID expired, so thanks. This might be the better option for me. Why not just order a duplicate and keep it stored away? They are $10 in my state and can be ordered online or at a kiosk. It seems like much ado about nothing for a solution that's less useful. Do you think people are getting hauled into court for having 2 IDs? As long as you aren't actively trying to commit some crime or fraud with them. Why would this ever be an issue? Don't carry 2 IDs on your person. Problem solved. YSK, the passport card has a lot of limitations. Research fully and carefully before getting one. I used my passport card a lot when I was studying abroad in England. My normal US ID took forever for people to understand my birthday. The passport card is in the standard order rather than US. It made getting carded much faster and easier. Passport card is known as a land or sea card. This cannot be used for any international travel. Feds should make it free. It would help with voter ID laws states pass to restrict people's ability to vote. What the hell, why can't you use it to arrive in the US or elsewhere in place of a passport book? Thank you for the tip. Only $30 after you pay $160 for your passport. Papers, please. Great for needing ID to exit and board cruise ships, but not valid if needing to make entry into the US. Wrong. Not same utility. Did it not occur to you why anyone would get a passport book if the card was that much cheaper with the same utility? Genius. Well, isn't that a steal? $30 for a backup ID that lasts 10 years. I'll take 10. Please, can't wait to rock that passport card fashion statement. Baby. YSK if you are American. Entirely useless information for everyone in the other 194 countries.